Welcome back. Governor Ned Lamont has not made an announcement quite yet on whether he'll seek a third term, but there are a number of people who are interested in that job. Joshua Elliott, a Democrat, is ready to challenge the governor, putting a possible primary in play. On the Republican side, Westport First Select Woman Jennifer Tooker has formally declared she was the first to announce, as has Timothy Wilcox. New Britain Mayor Aaron Stewart is officially exploring a run. And last week, Republican State Senator Ryan Fazio announced that he is running via video. Senator Fazio is joining me this morning. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
So tell me, why this race and why now?
Well, Connecticut's my home. I was born and raised here. I think it's a great state with great people, but all around Connecticut, people are struggling. They're facing the third highest electric rates, the third highest taxes in the country. And for the life of me, I believe that we can do better, and I believe that people in the state deserve better. And I believe that with a positive change in leadership and policy, that we can deliver that affordability, opportunity, safety, and hope for the future. So I'm running to face and solve those problems facing regular Connecticut families and charter a better course for our entire state.
I want to ask you specifically about some of those policies and some of the things that you think that Governor Lamont maybe could have done better. But always the question to a Republican hasn't won that seat since 2006. And you look at our current climate, which is so divisive between the two parties, and everyone brings this up, you have to sort of lean one way to get through a primary. And in Connecticut, many believe that you have to lean a different way. So how do you kind of tiptoe that tightrope?
Well, I'm running to focus on issues that I think affect everyone and concern everyone. And that's how I'll conduct this campaign. I believe we can unify the Republican Party, and I believe we can build a winning coalition. Connecticut voters have shown that they're willing to vote for Republicans or Democrats for the governor's office. With the exception of the last race, the Democrats only won by 3%, 1%, and 2%. And previous to that, Republicans had won several consecutive races. I think voters in the state want checks and balances. I don't think they want just one party rule. There's a 2-to-1 supermajority of Democrats in the legislature. I believe they want checks and balances and common sense.
Do you anticipate, should you make it to the general, you'll get a million questions from people like me about President Trump, and how do you plan to deal with those?
Well, I voted for the president. I believe that, I respect his public service. I believe that voters in Connecticut are going to decide the governorship on the basis of solving Connecticut issues and which candidate is best able to make their lives better here in our state.
Tell me about some of the things that you plan to do. And one is you said you are expecting a 20% reduction in electric rates. What's the secret sauce? Because a lot of people in the legislature have been looking at things like that.
I've been the leading voice for eliminating the public benefits charge and cutting electric rates significantly for the last couple of years. You do it in exactly that fashion. 20% of our electric bills, roughly $1 billion statewide, is basically hidden taxes to fund over 50 different discretionary government programs, everything from subsidizing private energy production for private companies to redistributive programs to other bureaucracy. If those programs should exist, they should be funded through the budget just like everything else. They shouldn't be tacked on as a part of a hidden tax in our electric bills. I brought light to that fact when I forced the electric bills to itemize that cost. Now I'm running for governor to finish that job, to eliminate the charge and make utilities affordable for everyone in the state.
Now, we saw some of that public benefits charge be bonded out, which is a reduction some people are seeing in their electric bills now. For the rest of it, would you be looking to make that shift or to cut some of those programs? Because you listed a bunch of things, but there are also some things in there that help people who can't afford their electric bills and things like that. So how do you, were you to be elected, how do you kind of figure that out to still get to that 20% reduction?
Well, the public benefit should be eliminated from our electric bill. I think there are a couple of the programs theoretically that could be funded through the normal budget process, not borrowed for necessarily, but funded through the normal budget process if they're deemed necessary by members of the legislature on both sides of the aisle through public debate and hearings. But most of the programs are not necessary at all. They do not deliver electricity to our house or produce it. What they do is they give special subsidies or create special programs that people in the legislature over time, mostly in one party, have deemed to be, positive, but they don't actually they aren't actually needed in order to produce and deliver electricity to people's homes or businesses and power our economy.
You've only been running for a short time, but one of the things you've talked about during that time is a cap on property taxes. I'm sure a lot of mayors and first selectmen kind of jolt when you say that, because that's how they pay their budget. So what's your plan? How logistically would that work? Because it sounds great, I'm sure, to a lot of homeowners, but you got to make it work.
Connecticut has one of the highest property tax burdens in the entire country. That's really unfair to working class families, to seniors, and we have to do something to get it under control. Other states have implemented property tax caps that just say you cannot raise property taxes in a given year by more than inflation plus maybe a little bit on top. And in exchange for that, those states have taken away hundreds of unfunded mandates that the state imposes on our municipalities that drive up the costs. Municipal leaders I've spoken to really actually like the idea, especially paired with reducing some of the unfunded mandates, because those Hartford mandates, those state mandates, are really what's driving up the cost of local government and forcing our taxpayers on the local level to pay such high property taxes.
What is something that you think Governor Lamont's gotten wrong?
Well, the governor promised to cut taxes when he ran for office. But if you add up all the taxes that he's raised over the course of his tenure, hospital tax, sales tax, payroll tax, business taxes, he's raised taxes by nearly $1 billion per year. He's promised to make the state more affordable, but he's presided over a $400 million per year increase in public benefits charges. I think that we can turn the ship of our state around. We can reduce taxes on middle-class families. We can eliminate the public benefits charge. It doesn't have to be this way. So I would be in opposition to policies exactly like that.
We're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you, you would be, if you were to win, a Republican governor, presumably with a Democratic legislature. How would you make that work? Because these ideas, if people are listening and saying, yeah, Ryan, that sounds great, you still have to get it through a legislature. So how do you then make that next step?
Well, I have a good track record in the state Senate of building relationships and finding common ground where it does exist. I was able to pass half a dozen new laws in the past several years, including to give more opportunities for work in the state to people without college degrees and so on. I also believe you have leverage as a governor with a line item veto that could be applied. So I have a track record of building relationships, building bridges. I'll continue to do that as governor.
30 seconds left. Erin Stewart, the mayor of New Britain, who has an exploratory committee for governor, put out some polling that has her beating you by 30 points. Other Republicans with just negligible vote totals and 35% undecided. Your reaction to her poll?
Well, I've been in the race for 1 week, but it's an internal poll, and they wouldn't release any of the methodology or the questions. So I think we can attribute it to being a silly, campaign tactic. What I know is I'm focused on uniting the party, running on the issues, and creating a better future for Connecticut. I think that's going to resonate.
Well, we have some ways to go until a primary, so we'll be talking to you again. Ryan Fazio, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.